Welcome, everybody. Joe Quill's here with you. It is Thursday night, another edition of the Joe Quill Show, and the last show before the Kentucky Derby. Well, we do have that also eligible show on Saturday, but um, yeah, but it's the last Joe Quill show. But been a long week, and not gonna lie, I um I ended up looking. I ended up running to the store before the show started tonight, and I went to I went to the store and I walked over there, and when I was on my way over, I'm like, "Damn, this is my sixth show this week." I'm like, "Oh, yeah," because I did my Monday night show. I had my first also eligible prime time at 8, and then I did my regular show at 9:30. Last night I had another prime time edition where I was showing you some of the quirks of the Derby and stuff like that. And basically, my thing is, you're not going, don't believe everything you see with everything that they're saying with the Derby, because I did show you that there was a couple of posts that um, a couple of posts in the gate where either that position has never won since 1930 when the gates came out, or a couple of spots in the gate where they've had longer droughts. So, but everybody talks about the one. But so we went through that. Um, then we had an also eligible this afternoon, which AJ controlled, and we had Defo on, we had Frank the Bank on, and we were talking some horses and got some picks from some of them. And I've been hinting at my pick. I think right now, and like I said earlier on that show, I said that we were I with the way that these horses are being scratched, because we've had two Derby horses scratched and we had three Oaks horses scratched. So I basically said, I'm not finalizing till Saturday morning, because knowing my luck, if I gave my pick now, I got to give another pick. So I can't tell you how many times we've had a Saturday show where we started talking about a horse and, oh, by the way, that horse is now scratched. But that's basically everything with that. But, and I mean, this is my sixth show. I usually do three shows during the week. I've doubled it this week. And eventually we are going to have a also eligible prime time. I don't know what night it is. It can't be on Wednesday, but we're going to figure it out. But that was kind of a news note today. We're going to have also eligible prime time, and that's eventually going to happen over time. It's probably going to be a couple of weeks. So, we'll get into that and more. So, but also, um, keeping an eye on two different TVs right now. I got the Phillies on in the living room, and in the dining room, I have the Sixers game on. Just to let you know, if you do not have Peacock, or as I like to affectionately call it, the cock, it is on NBCSN. Yes, NBCSN is back. And from what I know, it's an HD only channel. So if you don't have an HD box, then you got to watch on Peacock. But the thing I don't understand, and maybe this is a topic for another day. Why is it that Comcast charges you for an HD box when all these channels are showing their shit in high definition, and they got to dumb it down, so to speak, to standard definition? But that's a topic for another day. So, but long day at the Ball Yard today. Long day down at the complex. Phillies are in game 2 of their doubleheader. The first game was at 12:30. They came from behind to win 3-2. They're 5-5 in the 10th right now. Kyle Schwarber has 4 hits in the second game. And he is might be getting on track here. And across the street at the Xfinity Mobile Arena, I did not call it Wells Fargo. Congratulations, me. Sixers are up 56-47 right now. I do want to see one thing here if I can. Kyle Schwarber is 4 for 4. He's got 2 doubles, a single, and a homer. They actually had Cycle Watch on for Kyle Schwarber, and I think he might have had a shot at it in the 9th inning. But you remember when he hit the third home run in Home Run Derby to decide the All-Star game, and he ended up on his knee? Same thing here, but I think he slipped more than anything else. I think he would have had a shot at it, but that's just me. But I'm watching that. I'm watching the Sixers. Sixers up 9 right now, and 7 as they just scored here. So, but we'll get into that, and also some of the things we'll talk about. I might go out of order here because we had a, I put it together real fast, and I'm not planning on a long show, but it may be because I got this topic. I mean, so much stuff I want to talk about, but as you can tell, I'm wearing my Gritty shirt. We'll get into that in a second, but the NBA wants tighter restrictions on prediction markets like Kalshi and Polymarket. Duke has a groundbreaking TV deal for a couple of games next year. Las Vegas could have an MLS team soon, and whatever else comes up. So, I'm starting to run on fumes. Thankfully, tomorrow is just a day off from streaming, so I can actually take a break here. And also, the Kentucky Oaks tomorrow is a the Kentucky Oaks. The Kentucky Oaks isn't until 8:40 tomorrow. They're running it in prime time, and it may be a test to see what it would be like and maybe have the Kentucky Derby in prime time. But you have a problem that they could, you have this thing called the NBA. And I've already made a prediction that if the Sixers do win this game tonight, it is going to be Sixers Celtics right after the Kentucky Derby. I'm calling my shot. I called my shot a couple days ago. I'll call it again. So, anyways, so a lot of updates with the Kentucky Derby here. It's actually a lot of updates on the Kentucky Derby that I will get to. And I forgot what I was talking about here or what I was planning on. But we begin with the Philadelphia Flyers. And ladies and gentlemen, I had to create, ladies and gentlemen, a new AI and I have a new AI picture. And by the way, the Phillies just won. And I got to talk about this in a second. What got into the? Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to my Flyers rant, but what the hell got into the Knicks and the Hawks tonight? My God. When I when I pulled up ESPN just to see some things, like look for some stories I can talk about, it was 60-19. I pulled the website up a couple minutes ago just so I can have a good laugh. It was 117-57. Don't know what they did, but yeah. So Knicks are going to advance. They're going to play the winner of the Sixers and Celtics, which I guarantee you, that they're hoping that the Sixers and the Celtics not only go seven, but go 7 games and about 18 overtimes. But yeah, so the Knicks will be advancing, and the Flyers did win last night, and I had to apologize to my friends on Facebook because, ladies and gentlemen, we have a new AI picture that I shared with my friends, and that's right, you're next. Um, the mascot's name is Stormy. Unfortunately, AI did not get the right animal for the mascot for the Carolina Hurricanes. So I got to play around with AI a little more, but um, that is my new AI creation. Of course, nobody liked it yet, which is a little disappointing. But as you know, I've been tinkering with that a little bit, and here's some of the AI that I've had over the last couple of days. This was live from this was live from the Xfinity Mobile Arena last night. Gritty celebrating and Iceberg crying. Then there was actually I shared that twice somehow. Or did I? Yeah, I did. Then there was this one. Um, where is it? Well, you saw that one. You saw the original one. So I was tinkering around with it, joking around, having some fun with it, harmless fun. And of course, but I will say this: AI is both a good thing and a bad thing. AI is taking away jobs, but for something funny that you want to create at the very last minute, like I did there, just for shits and giggles, yeah, I'm going to do that. So yeah, I mean, I understand what the good and the bad of that is. Um, so if you say, somebody could design that for you, yeah, but by the time I get somebody to do it, it may be a couple hours later. That took maybe 3 minutes, but I guarantee you, it probably would have taken a few hours because of the fact that it was um, it was something that I was doing just for fun, so it wasn't anything serious. Um, so so I understand the pros and cons of AI. Trust me. I had a job for 26 years where you had automation, not artificial intelligence, but a rudimentary AI, if you think about it. So I know what AI is like. Um, but I will say this. Um, and I say this all the time, when your team is not involved in overtime or an extremely close game, like an NFL playoff game or an NHL Stanley Cup playoff game, when your team's not involved or a game 7, it's the best thing in the world. But when your team's involved, it's not fun. And, it gets the anxiety through the roof and your blood pressure. Thankfully, it wasn't that bad because I was worrying about other things. But Flyers did score about 2/3 of the way through overtime, winning 1-0. Penguins are now golfing at the Greenbrier. At least I would think so. Or maybe wherever that resort is in Western Pennsylvania. But Flyers go and play the Carolina Hurricanes, and Flyers have played them close in all 4 games. Now, the 4th game, the Hurricanes kind of went with some load management, but this could be an interesting series. I guess I'm obliged with the fact that I told you guys Pittsburgh in 5 only because the experience that Pittsburgh has. Um, I might have to say Carolina in 5 just so that I can get the Flyers to win in 6. Just some reverse psychology again. Now, I did tell you guys before the start of that series, you could have a team that is total deer in headlights and loses 4 straight to Pittsburgh, or a team that ends up totally oblivious to the pressure, which they were for the most part. So, but great job by the Flyers. Apparently, the Mitchkov thing, now that may have been a false story there in some regards. I kind of warned you, but he did miss part of it. He did, but he was scratched from Game 5. So, um, but the Flyers do advance, play Carolina, and if you think the Xfinity Mobile Arena was crazy for Pittsburgh, wait till Carolina. The only thing is you don't have a rivalry. Now, I don't know about you, but I consider the Rangers more of a rivalry than the Penguins. But the last few years, it's either one team's been good or the other, and not both. But I think because it's Pennsylvania, and because of that, it's like, well, the rivalry between the Steelers and the Eagles. They haven't been rivals since the 60s. And the rivalry between the Phillies and the Pirates. Well, rivalry weekend in 2 weekends in Major League Baseball, that's only a rivalry because MLB has 2 teams in the same state. And Baltimore will be playing Washington that weekend, I believe, and you'll have other teams playing. So as a result, what's left for the Phillies? Oh, we'll take them to Pittsburgh. So, but the Phillies Pirates rivalry has been dead since. Well, it's been dead since 1991. Actually, it's been dead since '83, maybe. Because when the Pirates were good in the late '80s, early '90s, the Phillies were crap. Then in '93, it got reversed because the Phillies had the dream season that fell a couple of games short, and the Pirates lost Barry Bonds, and everything started to crumble. But I think you're seeing a team in the Flyers that, and I'm not talking X and O's, I don't know everything about hockey, but I just get the feeling that maybe we have something something magical going. And it's only the first round, I know, and you're playing a team that was old. But I think you got a team who could, um, be like Joe Theismann's prostates. Joe Theismann's prostating. The Flyers could give the Hurricanes fits. But I don't think you can sit there and say, you're going to be thinking, oh, it's going to be all Carolina. And for some reason, I got disconnected there for about a half a second. But I, I think I just got to say Carolina in 5 just because of the reverse psychology effect. Because there's no reason why the Flyers can't play right with them. And, and who knows, you may get lucky and you'll have, as I'm pulling up the NHL bracket right now, if it'll come up, there we go. So I'm going to share the bracket here. You got the Lightning and the Canadiens. Canadiens are up 3-2 and they can win it at home. Buffalo's up 3-2. They can win it in Boston. Both those games are tomorrow. Flyers win 1-0 in overtime. They win 4-2. Carolina swept. Maybe a little rust factor there, but then again, they've been in the playoffs year after year. They might be used to short series and long rests. So then in the West, Colorado swept the LA Kings. They got a long wait. Now, the Stars and the Wild are tied at 2-2. I think Colorado is rooting for a Game 7 there. Then Oilers play the Ducks tonight. And just to let you know, my pick tonight is the Anaheim Ducks. I gave that out on Also Eligible. It's at plus 110 right now for Anaheim on the money line. Now, I could play really cute with my wagers. I do it from time to time. And I occasionally end up picking I go with the 60-minute line. With the way things are in hockey, I wouldn't even take an 80-minute line, which means a full 20 minutes of overtime. You never know what will happen. And Oilers did win Game 5 up in Edmonton to save their season for at least a couple more nights until tonight. Ducks got a controversial goal, and we discussed it on Monday, and it kind of looked like it was in, but it's so hard to tell. But hockey doesn't usually have it's inconclusive. They're like, well, the puck should be here with the way that all the stuff that they do. So, but so we got 3 of the 8 teams in the final 8. If I filled out a bracket, I probably would have been partially done because I had the Penguins winning. But I think my reasoning was good. It had nothing to do with the fact of me being a Flyers fan. And sometimes you get these Flyers fans and just Philly fans in general, and trust me, I know a couple. God forbid you criticize a hometown team. Because God forbid you want to say something that, but I'm just not afraid of saying, you know what, I don't like this matchup for the Eagles. I'm going against them. Or I'm going against the Flyers because I think it was a somewhat sound decision, but I also think that you have to realize that things don't always go as expected. And when they won the first two games in Pittsburgh, I'm like, holy crap. But the Flyers move on. They take on Carolina, and I'll be wearing this shirt on and off for the next couple of weeks. Got that at a food truck convention. They also had like some like flea market type tables as well. I was like, oh, I gotta have this shirt. And I also wore it at my old job because I had a little pissing match with a coworker, and it was my way of saying, yeah, you can say and do what you want, but oops, I don't care. But and of course, and none of the managers even asked me, well, what's that supposed to be? It's gritty. Well, why are you? No reason. But, but if you're telling me that I have to, that I can't wear it, then we have problems. Because now you're saying I can't wear a shirt like this, which you're putting an edit meeting to, but you're not going after people who are wearing the same stuff I am. He also had a guy next to me who got away with murder, requesting off every Saturday and Sunday and getting them, um, wearing a hat in the office. I mean, that was one of the few things that they said that they would go after and they never did, which was wearing hats. You know, I was respectful. Like around my apartment, I sometimes wear a hat, but not all the time. If you were watching me earlier today, yeah, I was wearing a hat on the show. It was a Phillies hat, but it was. I don't feel like grabbing it, but yeah. So, but I'll tell you what, it is going to be fun down in South Philly over the next couple of weeks because the Sixers are winning 65-51 early in the third. Phillies won. I think they may finally be getting on track after um, they swept the San Francisco Giants. And the thing is, you know, sometimes you need to make that change. And, you know, it's not about Don Mattingly. It's not about Rob Thompson. It's just that the team may have finally righted the ship a little bit, but there's still a long way to go in the season. But this is definitely going to be a move where it's a one and done for Don Mattingly because he doesn't really want to manage anymore. But I think in this situation of somebody letting the manager go, he's like, all right, I'll step in for the season and we'll go from there. But I think he's pretty much going to stay as a manager, going to stay as a bench coach if he does anything else. And he was almost ready to retire, and he ended up coming here because, oh, by the way, his son is the general manager. Now, the general manager position isn't what it used to be. It isn't what it used to be. It isn't that the GM was. I mean, it used to be that the GM used to make all the moves. It's the president of baseball operations who does it now that has that function. And breaking news: Sixers are up 69-54, and Celtics might be in trouble here. But I'm not going to say anything either way. And I know that 2-second clip may be used against me. So be it. But kind of like how when I at work, I said when Andy Reid got the year that Andy Reid got fired, I said, I don't think Andy Reid gets fired, but the Eagles go 4-12, is that the threshold that he gets fired? And they went 4-12, and he got fired. Oh, you got him fired. I didn't get him fired. I'm just doing my sports talk stuff, even though I wasn't sports talking or anything. Duh. But the Sixers are up fairly big. Not as big as what the Knicks are doing in Atlanta. I mean, the South hasn't seen this much destruction since the Civil War. The Knicks are up 136-84 with under 3 minutes left. Let's pour one out and give Atlanta one of those. And the Knicks will have a couple of days off. So, had a couple of things to add to my timeline there. So be interesting to see what happens with everything. So, but the Sixers, and I just saw one of my friends from the prep posted on his Facebook before I closed it out. ESPN was interviewing Clyde Frazier because, it's a 50-point game. We have to do something to keep us entertained. And Frazier said he doesn't want to play the Sixers. I kind of feel that way, but I kind of feel like, you're one injury away from the Sixers going in the shitter. But Sixers could go in the shitter tonight even without an injury if Boston wakes up. But maybe I need to razz some Boston Celtics fans, but I don't know. But we'll worry about that. So, let's get to the NBA news. And I saw this tonight in interesting stuff here because the one thing is with the NBA, we did have that scandal that came up with gambling and whatever. We had a couple of different scandals. A couple of players purposely playing the under, making sure that a couple of their stats for the unders were hit. And a couple of them were playing their own as unders, and they were sick and whatever. And the NBA has a problem with load management. Now, I get it. Oh, we're all bigger, stronger, faster. Okay. But the thing is, if you think about it, when they were younger, they're playing 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe more games a day. And I guarantee you some of those games were probably even more physical than what's in the NBA, which is basically a powder puff league compared to what it was in the 80s and 90s. So I just think the NBA has all kinds of issues, even issues that even I'm not thinking about, but especially the lottery too. But the way they want to do the lottery is bullshit. But I just think, I understand why. Yep, it's exactly what I said, Brendan. Philly versus Carolina. And just to let you know, and this is just for fun, people that are going to see this over the next week or so, I do want to warn everybody. I'll warn everybody again. This is all for fun. And AI did not get the Carolina Panthers correct here. But I created that today as a joke, and it is a joke. Ha ha. Unfortunately, I don't think I have uh, any friends in Carolina on my Facebook page. So, but I kind of don't want to put it on Instagram or um, on X because that'll end up being everywhere. At least I have a little bit more control on Facebook because it's a private account for close friends and family. But I'm, you know, and since I said Penguins in 5 a couple of weeks ago, actually about a week before the playoffs started, I'm obligated to say Carolina in 5 just so that the whole reverse psychology thing. So, but the NBA, going back to that, they've had their issues with gambling over the last couple of years, and we have these prediction markets like Polymarket and Kalshi. I do have a Kalshi account. I just haven't used it in a while. I have money sitting in there. It's just I haven't had the time to just sit there and just play around with it and doing whatever. I kind of explained it a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago to a friend, but I really didn't do. I haven't done much with it. But the NBA is asking the nation's top commodities regulator because, um, but they're calling it, but they have it as a commodity, and that's a totally and basically they treat it as a stock market in a way. So that's what they. So they actually do all this stuff where it's like for example, Kalshi, you can even go with the weather. Oh, what's the temperature going to be in Philadelphia tomorrow? And they'll give you a couple of ranges. So I always believe that, you know, and I think it's an interesting thing that they have there. I just haven't mastered it or even had the time to even get some ideas. Um, but it's not considered gambling, even though it is. But then again, the stock market is gambling as well, if you think about it. And by the way, it's final in Atlanta, 140 to 89. And the Atlanta Hawks are off to Cancun or Galveston, as Charles Barkley once said. But um, but in a way, it is gambling. But the stock market's gambling as well because you're owning a piece of a company and you're relying on it to make or lose money. Now, even with me, I'll tell it like it is. I I own a piece of a racehorse. Now, the way that that sounds, I joke around, say I own about this much of the anus because I'm an asshole. Like, like Michael J. Fox.
He's an asshole.
Can't help it. But, um, you know, and I'm making money off the horse, but if that horse never runs or never cashes a check, I'm not going to make any money. But with being a 2-year-old horse, AJ, the leader of our group, even though he'll say that I'm one of the leaders, I'm trying to be humble. Um, he'll say, I mean, he's bought into 5 or 6 horses. He got me on one, and that's all I want is one. But we had a little joking around over the last couple of weeks. He owns a horse named Woodburn, which is through my racehorse. He also has a couple of horses through Commonwealth. And Commonwealth, you can buy in on a horse for $50. $50 a share, I should say. So in my case, I have 20 shares. And you can put the numbers together. But um, I'm gambling my money, even though it's kind of like stock in a way. It's based on the horse's performance. And AJ and I have been joking around the last couple of weeks that he's been on the Saturday show. And he said to me, he has on their owner, future trip, he had future Kentucky Derby winning owner. And I said, oh, yeah, watch this. Future Triple Crown winning owner. So, we're having fun with it. But also, he owns a small piece of my horse, too. Um, So it's called micro shares. So you buy like little pieces of the horse, and you get money back for these races and all that. So, um, but in terms of this, um, the NBA wants regulators to tighten restrictions on the prediction markets, and given the way that the NBA has had these issues over the last few years, I think it's right that they at least try. Um, you don't have any you don't have any issues with I mean, there's going to be issues in all sports. I mean, a couple years ago, the NFL had all kinds of gambling issues because somebody wanted to put a wager in, and oops, I'm still on the grounds. So even if they weren't betting on football, which would be the equivalent of the baseball no, even if they weren't betting on football, they're breaking the rules that the NFL set. So, but this is very easily to find out because even if you don't have an account, and I don't think we should be naive here. The players do gamble, but they know, okay, if you're playing baseball, oh, I can't bet on baseball, or I can't bet on this sport, I can't bet on that sport. And you have rules on top of the rules to protect themselves and protect the integrity of the game, because that's what this is about. I mean, you don't want 1919 all over again, where the Chicago Black Sox through the World Series. You don't want that. I mean, but you're not going to see that. But you're going to see like, oh well, um, I did. I only got 2 hits in this game instead of 4. Or Emmanuel Clase, he was purposely throwing balls on the first pitch for these micro wagers or these quick wagers on the NBA, on Major League Baseball as well, because you can bet on what the first pitch is going to be, a ball or a striker in play. But Poly Market and Kalshi are a little different because it's usually yes or no. Will somebody hit a home run in the 4th inning? I'm making it up. I don't know what the verbiage is that they have on either one lately, but Dan Spillane, who's the executive vice president, assistant general counsel, wrote in a letter to the Commodity Futures Trading Commission that the integrity concerns posed by prediction markets are similar to those associated with sports betting. Yes and no. Just like the prediction, I mean, it is essentially a stock market because let's say you're buying at 48 cents and you put $5 on it, you're going to have 10 shares, which would be 480. You get the 20 cents back. But, that sort of thing. But it's an interesting stand that the NBA is trying to make, because they're calling for tighter controls, while leagues such as MLB, NHL, and UFC are signing partnership deals with prediction markets. Now, it doesn't mean that the NBA won't do it. They're concerned about their product, and they've been burned, and they've actually had to ban a couple of people, and also had other issues that were coming up here. And I think that the commissioner, Adam Silver, I think he's a very smart man. Now, granted, he looks like Shrek, but I think that you would, I think you would, you know, and I don't think, I don't think having this stand now would not be contradictory to them saying, even though it would sound like it, okay, we have a partnership with Kalshi, let's say. So I think that you may even have some additional safeguards. You may have additional regulations, and I think Kalshi is very good with watching for things like that. So it isn't like you're just it's just like the wild west like NIL is in college football and college sports in general, but I think you see all the things that you're seeing here, and I think that they have a right to be concerned with everything that's going on. So so the letter comes as the Community Futures Trading Commission weighs whether to amend its regulations on prediction markets. And Dan Spillane wrote, "There's no higher priority for the NBA than protecting the integrity of our games and preserving public confidence in our league and in our sport." He was making it clear that the league takes no position regarding ongoing battles between states and the CFTC over the right to regulate prediction markets. And in a way, I think, yes, you do have to regulate it to a certain extent. But I think that you have to realize that I think that you do have to I do think that you have to have some watchdog issues. So, you do have to make sure that there are things in place where you can say, we're cutting this off. We're getting some irregularities here. So, and I think Kalshi is a little more ahead on that than Polymarket is, but don't quote me on that. So I understand. I mean, I'm just thinking aloud with some of the things that we're saying here, because, yeah, it is, a lot of the issues that they've had in the past, I think that I do think that you do want to make sure that everything is on the up and up, because I don't think you want another gambling scandal at all. So, but that's just me. So, so in this letter, he doesn't say what it is exactly, but it doesn't say it in the article here. But he identified specific markets that he said might be prone to manipulation. Oh, he does kind of mention, but vaguely, such as those relating to officiating, injuries, and fan actions. Now, I haven't been in there too much to see what the NBA ones are like, because every once in a while I throw a weather one out there. I do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but I don't necessarily. I'm not on there every day. I probably should be a little bit just to know what it is. It's like, hey, be like, hey, Joe, did you try Kalshi before? Yeah. What about it? Well, I just think, something like that. But, um, um, and he also called for a strict ban on contract trading by anyone under than 21. I would not be opposed to that. But if you do that, then if you were to go to the racetrack, you only have to be 18. So Polymark and Kalshi, for example, and there's other prediction markets as well, they trade on yes or no outcomes of events, including sports. Like, is the sky blue today? Or in the case of me walking home from the store, will you see a rainbow after the storm tonight? And the answer would have been yes. At least I saw it. But and here's the part that I'm okay with. The letter also called for increased cooperation between prediction markets and leagues with regards to suspicious trading, data sharing, and league investigations. Now, I am all for, if something weird is going on, flag it, get rid of it, close it out. I mean, let's look at everything with let's look at everything with the with sportsbook gambling. You may have a couple of days where, early in the week, well, we don't know what's going to happen with Jalen Hurts this week. Well, we're not going to put a line out for that. We're going to take that line down for a little bit because it wouldn't be fair, because if Jalen Hurts plays, the Eagles might be a 7-point favorite. Well, if it's whoever's the backup this year, it's an even game right now. So you get the idea. But yeah, if there's something funny going on, flag it, and that's what it's there for. So, but start of the fourth quarter, Sixers are up 82-63. They're looking to force a game 7 Saturday. I almost said Saturday night, but I think it's going to be Saturday night right after the Kentucky Derby. At least I think so. But it's beginning to look more and more like it's Sixers and Celtics, game 7 on Saturday. And since I mentioned the Kentucky Derby, I might as well tell you that also eligible, my final stream of the week, unless something pops up between now and Saturday morning, we're going to be looking at the Kentucky Derby. And I've been doing a couple of things here and there with that. I even gave you guys some quirky stats. And basically my thoughts are, yeah, the stats are what they are, but I'm not, if I was going to tell you that Further Ado is going to win coming from the 17 post, even though he's wearing saddlecloth 18, I will pick Further Ado. Every race is different. Every race has a different outcome. And, and you haven't had 17 horses in a race over half the time that the stat sample was. The stat sample was 96 races, and it's only been 44 times that somebody ran for that post. So, but now I'm sure that they will even count pre-1930, but 1930 was the invention of the starting gate and all that. So, but so we'll get into that. And we do have a few scratches as well, which we'll show you right now. And I have to find some of the information here as well, but going back over to here, let me go over here because I'm here. I'm here. So 17 horses were entered for the Oaks. 14 in the main body of the field and 3 also eligibles. The 6 My Miss Mo was scratched. She was scratched yesterday, I believe. Safi Joseph said she just doesn't seem right, or was it yesterday? But so you do have that. Bottle Rouge was an early scratch on Sunday. So Bottle Rouge was the first scratch. My Miss Mo was the second scratch. Bella Ballerina is the latest scratch. And she has a minor injury. And Brendan Walsh, who is the trainer, described it as a ding for a leg injury. She won't be out of action too long. She trained Wednesday morning but did not train Thursday morning. So Resist, who is the 17 here, draws into that race. So she is 65-1 right now. Neigh 75-1. Lovely Gray. I think this is getting a ton of money because it's David Portnoy's horse, and that 15 horse is 5-1 right now. So she's getting some major play early on. So the favorite right now is Percy's Bar at 9-2. And just to let you know, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Is the cutoff time. So now you can still scratch a horse in the Oaks. You can scratch up until right before the start of the race. But in terms of the Oaks Derby double, and I'm going to show you the Derby here. Let me just do this so I can see what I'm clicking on. So let's go to Derby Day. Race 12 is the Derby. And we have 2 scratches there so far, not so long, so far. Silent Tactic was first to be scratched. He has a hoof injury. So, and that injury was just bad luck on that horse's part, and also I'm just looking to see if I can find it here. So there was a couple additional scratches. I just can't find that information in regards to Silent Tactic. Then earlier today, Full Effort was scratched. So that allows Ocelli to get in. The scratch at 13 allowed Great White to get in. So 21 and 22 are both in. And Robusta and Corona del Oro, they're looking for another scratch. Now, if they do not scratch by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, if there's no other scratches between now and 9 o'clock in the morning, then you will see the 21 Saddlecloth, which is lavender, and 22, which is postal blue, in the Kentucky Derby. if we have two more scratches, the 23 and the 24 will get in. So I wouldn't be surprised if we may have no other changes, but don't be surprised. But once 9 o'clock hits and there's no other scratches, then the 23 and 24 are automatically scratched, because that's how also eligibles work. So, and especially with the Kentucky Derby. So these two horses will be scratched at 23 and 24, and Great White and Aselli will be on there. So we have that, and check out Q&A Racing on YouTube, or Q&A Sports Zone, I should say. We have a bunch of stuff with the Kentucky Derby. Defo had Caton Bradar on his show yesterday afternoon. He had Larry Colmus, the announcer, the NBC track announcer for the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness. He was on the show, and I gotta watch that today. But I would definitely say that even if you didn't watch it, check that out and go from there. So, but that is he's a great interview, and Caton Bradar was a great interview as well. My interview with Todd Schrupp would have been a great one, but blame me. I keep giving myself shit for that, but it's okay. So from there, we'll see what happens, and I will probably be at Harris, Philly, to watch the race. So Mike, who's my Monday co-host, he and I joke around and a lot, and we go to these big days at the local tracks here. So like I said to Todd Schrupp, which unfortunately did not get through on the air, we either go to Harris, Philly, Parks, or Delaware Park. So, but probably would go to Garden State Park if that was still around, but it's not. But also, if they were still around, they might have night racing still, which means you go for the Derby, you hang around, you relax, you breathe a little bit, and then you watch the live racing from Delaware Park, from Garden State. But Garden State doesn't have racing anymore. They closed down over 20 years ago. But I did see this today, and this is an interesting thing, and probably something that's going to come up a little bit more. And I wouldn't be surprised if Netflix gets involved, or Hulu, or Hulu's actually Disney, so you can actually watch them there. But Duke coach John Shire has found a new and inventive way to uplift college basketball's non-conference schedule, and getting paid a lot of money in the process. That's because it's going to play 3 high-profile non-league games at neutral sites for the 26-27 season. Now, they always seem to have a couple of non-conference games like this every year. Of course, the haves don't want to play the have-nots in a regular season, whether it's non-conference or they got to play the have-nots in the conference season. But there's going to be a little twist this year. That's because Amazon Prime Video will broadcast these games. Now, I'm sure some people who would be catching this even after the fact will think, oh, God, more shit on Amazon Prime, more shit streaming. But they're going to be streaming college basketball for the first time. They're going to be the first to stream college basketball, a platform like that, because you can get the Fox Sports app or get the ESPN app, and you get that, but not like this. So they're going to have 3 games: Duke versus UConn in Las Vegas at T-Mobile Arena, November 25th. December 21st, they're playing Michigan at MSG. And then February 20th against Gonzaga in Detroit at Little Caesars Arena. So they're all poised to be preseason top 10 teams. Now, the one thing is, with Gonzaga going to the Pac-12 this year, what will be interesting is whether or not the Pac-12 conference is considered a power conference or a mid-major, because remember, they were a great conference, the Conference of Champions, as Bill Walton called them, but they essentially disbanded. Washington State and Oregon State got the rights to the conference, and they helped to build this back up. They got like 8 or 10 teams in there, but it's it's not anything. It's not any sexy names for football teams, but they do have they do have a conference that they're gonna, as it comes back. I don't know. Be interesting to see how the Pac-12 gets judged this year, since it's the first year back, not just in basketball but in football as well, and even some of the other sports. But all the deals have not been finalized and signed. But Duke's opponents will make north of $500,000 playing these games. Duke obviously will make much more. Now, Duke is a member of the ACC, which has a long-term rights deal with ESPN because, ACC network. Now, the workaround Duke managed was to play non-ACC games in cities in Las Vegas and Detroit, where the ACC does not have an automatic or default broadcast rights because it does not have member schools in those areas. However, Madison Square Garden technically falls under that jurisdiction because of Syracuse, an ACC team, is in the state of New York, even though Syracuse is about, 4 or 5 hours north? But ESPN and Duke came to terms on making an exception with the compromise. ESPN negotiated Duke into future non-conference games later that decade in exchanging for allowing an NYC matchup with Michigan. So some interesting things there. So, and of course, streaming is the way that everybody goes now. But the only thing is, if you think about it, and I think a lot of people are realizing this, when you cut the cord like 95% of Americans did, and you go to streaming, you're paying just as much with these apps as you are with cable. So it's like, but like, for example, Xfinity, they do have deals where, okay, if you group these apps together for a certain price, blah, 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 blah. So, but the tip times for the 3 games are to be determined. No shocker, because we're minimum 7 months away. The Gonzaga tilt in Detroit is intentional. The city is the site of next season's men's Final Four, making it the first time Detroit will host college basketball's grand event since 2009. The game against Michigan is not only a battle against the reigning national champs, but it's a rematch of February's major non-conference battle in D.C., which Duke won 73-72. Now, the Connecticut game, now they were working on, for a better part of a year, on scheduling each other. According to what sources told CBS Sports. CBS is where I got this article. And Shire opted to keep moving forward with the game even after his team blew a 19-point lead in the regional finals. Sorry, I'm calling it regional finals. And lost in crushing fashion in the final second after Caden Boozer's turnover led to Braylon Mullins' game-winning three. Now, ironically enough, both those players will be back next year, making the Duke-UConn matchup one of the premier tilts of the first 2 months of the season. So, but it is going to be fun. I think that's Thanksgiving weekend too, ain't it? Let me see something here. It's the day before Thanksgiving. I could never do it. I'm tempted, but anyways, in an innovative way that they can draw more money into the Duke athletic program. Maybe this turns into a bit of a Notre Dame thing with Duke, because Notre Dame has that football thing where we play on NBC and you guys can suck it. But we'll see. I'm sure Notre Dame doesn't say that because they're the Catholic university, blah blah blah. But anyways, one last story here, and now I do not think. I repeat, I do not think this is what I do not think this is a I don't think this is a ploy by the owners of the Vancouver Whitecaps to get a stadium in Vancouver. I don't think it's that. I think it's somebody who has the money to purchase that franchise and saying, we're buying this team and we're going to Vegas. That's what I think this is. Well, Grant Gustafson, who's the mother of billionaire Tamara Gustafson. Tamara Gustafson is part of the Public Storage, is the largest shareholder of Public Storage. Well, Grant is leading an investor group that has made a formal offer to acquire the Vancouver Whitecaps and relocate them to Las Vegas. Now, this is going to be real interesting because, well, actually, let me wind back a little bit. Let me rewind a little bit because it's going to be interesting because you're going to have a couple of weeks at the start of the season and a couple of weeks at the end of the season where the weather could be unbearable, be insanely hot because they're in the middle of a fucking desert. But I will say this. It will be interesting to see if they do move this franchise to Vegas because, are they going to build a new arena? I mean, they're going to build a new stadium, but is this going to be one of those minor league? I mean, is this going to be your typical MLS stadium with a roof over top of it? It'd be interesting to see. And I'm just thinking as well, if you play at a temporary site, like, for example, Allegiant Stadium, which has hosted international soccer matches in the past, you could conceivably have a place for this Las Vegas team if Vancouver goes there, or if they expand to go and play there temporarily. Also, remember when the Union was born, way back when, they also had. Now, granted, they backloaded the schedule at home for the second half of the year, their initial year, and they only played 2 games in Philadelphia, which was at Lincoln Financial Field. And they drew well there. I doubt they would get 30, 40, 50,000 in a football stadium like that, but you know, it's about having a stadium that meets the demands of your fans. And sometimes I wonder, is 18, 19,000 not enough? And then you have a season like this year with the Union where it's like, yeah, 18, 19,000, maybe a little too much. But you get the idea. So Grant Gustafson is a Vegas resident, and the offer, which would need to be accepted by the Whitecaps owners and approved by the MLS Board of Governors, includes a plan to build a stadium in the city. Now, also, they do have a USL team there, the Las Vegas Lights. At least they have had them in the past. I believe they still exist. Well, I will say this. This is not the same as Major League Baseball. They have something in agreement or writing or whatever you want to call it, where a major league team and a minor league team can't be in the same city. Now, those in New York are going to say, well, how do Staten Island and Brooklyn have minor league teams, and we have the New York Mets and the New York Yankees? And I think the MLB has had a workaround with that because they consider Staten Island one locality, Brooklyn a locality, Queens a locality for the Mets, Yankees a locality. So I think that was the workaround. Also, you have Minneapolis and St. Paul, which I think those two stadiums are like 10 miles apart, maybe. They're, they work hand in hand, but they're technically two different cities as well. I believe when the A's finally make it to Vegas, I believe they may not move the Aviators out of Vegas because all of a sudden they're not calling that Las Vegas anymore. They're calling it, I can tell you in a second here. Well, they're calling it Las Vegas on Google. Okay. But on Wikipedia, and also Wikipedia, if you're writing a scholarly article, you can't use Wikipedia as a source. Las Vegas Ballpark is a baseball stadium in Summerlin, South Nevada. So I think that's the workaround for the A's because, they're in Summerlin, South. They're not in Vegas. But Vegas, that we think is Vegas, is not Vegas. Where the Strip is, where the football stadium is, where the hockey arena is, where the baseball stadium will be, that's all unincorporated Clark County. And that area where from about mid-strip down, that's actually Paradise, Nevada. That's not Las Vegas. That's actually Paradise, they call it. Because, the one time I was on Facebook and I posted something, it said it geolocated me to Paradise, Nevada. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But they call it Nevada. They call it Las Vegas because it's unincorporated and it's run by the county and blah, blah, blah. So, and that's what they want to call it. So. But they would need to play in a temporary venue until a stadium project is completed. Now, this was first reported by the Las Vegas Journal Review Journal, which is the newspaper out there. So, so this investment group will privately finance this endeavor and is not connected to any of the recently announced arena ideas in Las Vegas. This is according to Gustafson's group. In the coming weeks and months, we look forward to the opportunity to share more. However, out of respect to the league's deliberations and community stakeholders, we're refraining from sharing details of our proposal. Well, the reason why you don't want to share is because somebody's going to steal your ideas, especially at this point in the game. We look forward to continuing to work for a positive outcome for the game, the fans, and league in Las Vegas. So, now the Whitecaps, they've been for sale since December of 2024. Now, according to the club, despite having serious conversations with over 100 parties, no viable offers emerged that would keep the club in Vancouver. So, I don't know. I don't know what happened with any of them or anything, but I don't have the breakdown of that. But and any league, or most leagues, I should say, because there may be a situation where, like the NFL wanted football back in LA, or stuff like that. So, now the stated preference of both MLS and the Whitecaps to keep the team in Vancouver, the league has begun exploring the possibility of relocating the team. Now, the thing is, I think you've done your due diligence over the last year and a half to do what you can to get the stadium, keep the team there. And maybe you get a team, and also when they were first brought up to being up for sale, they did not have as many options as they do now, in my opinion. And I can tell this for a fact because Hastings Race Course in Vancouver, they stopped racing after this past season last year. So they said, we're no longer racing, but we're going to keep the casino. So they're planning on getting, but I would think, depending on the land and everything else and everything that they work with the province and everything else, I think that land could be in play. And I think you could have some amazing views there. But that's just me. But so there was a subcommittee that met earlier this month to discuss this issue. An investor group from Phoenix had expressed strong interest in inquiring the Whitecaps and moving the team, which would include an as yet unspecified relocation fee, because you're going to move the team, it's going to cost you. So you got that as well. So you're not only going to have purchase the team fee, you're also going to have the relocation fee. But the sticking point with the Whitecaps are the stadium economics. They play at BC Place, which is a large stadium, 50, 55, 60,000. The Whitecaps play there, which is owned by the Provincial Crown Corporation, or PAVCO. The team recently signed a new lease to play its game at BC Place with improved economic returns, including a return of $1 to $1.5 million in revenue that PAVCO makes from renting the revenue to the Whitecaps. So they don't own that stadium. or they're not part of Pavco. Whitecaps CEO Axel Schuster has said that the improved terms are not enough to make the team economically viable. But I think they're looking, okay, short term we'll agree to this, but not long term. And by the way, breaking news, there will be a Game 7. Shocker, because the NBA wants that, especially with the Kentucky Derby on Saturday. So the Sixers and the Celtics, Game 7 on Saturday. And thankfully the Flyers won, because can you imagine watching both Game 7 Flyers and Game 7 Sixers at the same time? Jesus Christ. But so last December, the Whitecaps and the city of Vancouver signed an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, on the potential development of a new stadium and entertainment district in Hastings Park, which is probably the land that's the racetrack. But at the time of the announcement, Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim said the process may take 4+ years, a timeline that apparently isn't quick enough for the MLS. Or maybe they just don't realize. I mean, obviously, you're going to be transforming a racetrack, a horse racing track. Now, granted, it's a bull ring track that was 5 furlongs around in circumference. So it's taking up a lot less space than Hollywood Park did or Arlington Park. So you're looking at a much smaller track. So, and I'm sure there's other things around that area that they would have to redevelop on top of everything else. And so, also the commissioner, the MLS commissioner, Don Garber, met with British Columbia Premier David Eby, at least I think that's how it's pronounced, to discuss ways the Whitecaps could remain in Vancouver. Eby told CBC the talks were constructive. The province has offered financial concessions tied to BC Place, but has ruled out buying the team. Eby told reporters following the meeting that the province would not transfer control of the provincially owned revenue to the Whitecaps to stabilize the club's finances, and he added that the team has shown no interest in that option. I think that because, I mean, just think about it. If you become the owner, then you got to worry about all the upkeep and everything else. So, just me. But the fans have started a Save the Caps movement with banners and signs containing the slogan appearing at last week's match against Colorado Rapids. About 100 Whitecaps supporters held a rally protesting the possible relocation, and rightfully so. I mean, that would be the same. I mean, my God, look at everything with all that, you know. But now, Sim sat alongside Garber inside the Congress and stressed that the MLS commissioner remained in support of the team staying in the city. I think he's doing everything he can, because this is not just keeping the team in Vancouver. It's also keeping a 3-way rivalry. I think it's a Cascadia Cup. It's Seattle, Portland, and Vancouver. They have a 3-way rivalry. And what's better than a 3-way rivalry?
2 chicks at the same time, man.
But so the commissioner's in support of the team staying in the city. So the mayor said, without going into details, because it's not my place to say, you have a commissioner who wants to see football or soccer succeed in the city of Vancouver. And so I think it's very promising. At the end of the day, the economics have to work, obviously, for whatever the future owner is. We know in Vancouver we have a deep love for the Whitecaps. It's part of our history. It's part of our heritage. Now, I will say this, and this is like the information that's in my head that it's like, how do you retain all this shit? I'm like, I don't know. But there is a Canadian Premier League that I'm sure that they would expand for a Vancouver team in a heartbeat. The only problem is the revenues would be nowhere close to what the MLS would have. I mean, the MLS makes money, but it's not like, for example, what the Premier League does in the UK, for example. But, we're talking about different markets and different levels of fandom and hooliganism and everything else. But I would think that you would have a lot of you do whatever you can. I think that's fair that you do whatever you can to keep that team in Vancouver. But I think that there could be a new Whitecaps. It just won't be in MLS. It will be in Canadian Premier League, or so we think. So, but just an interesting thing that I saw there, and don't be surprised if someone were to buy the Whitecaps and promise a new stadium, for example, at Hastings Racetrack, that plot of land, and they keep the team there. Don't be surprised that Vegas gets an expansion team, because the other four sports are able to. The other four sports have all moved to the city. Well, Vegas was an expansion, but the NBA team's going to be expanding to Vegas in a few years as well. But and by the way, first of all, Sixers won. I did share that before. Also, I told you guys to play the Ducks. It's early, but Anaheim is up 1-0. So, but I would not be surprised if something like I wouldn't be surprised if they move. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a new MLS franchise in Vegas. And also, with the schedule going along the lines of the rest of the world, where they're going from late summer to the middle of spring, I think that opens up a window for Vegas, because of the fact that when the season is over, that's when those dog day 110, 115, 120, 125 degree days happen. Now, you may have to do what the NFL did with the Phoenix/Arizona Cardinals did when what they did with them when they were in Tempe at Sun Devil Stadium. They actually did not have they actually had them play on the road the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, unless they had a Sunday night or Monday night game. So I would say, I think MLS in Vegas is doable one way or the other, because you're going to have a short season in 2027. And then 27-28 will be the first that we have playoffs, have a season which corresponds with most of the rest of the world, because then your transfer windows would be the same and stuff like that. So, so that'll be everything with that. So, but that's going to be it for this show. Just a reminder, the Kentucky Derby show will be Saturday morning, 10 a.m. It may be 60 minutes. It may go up to an hour and a half, may go 2 hours. I don't know. But we're going to be talking everything Kentucky Derby. I think for shits and giggles, we may even do the first race that goes off at 11 o'clock. We may do that as well. But either way, we should be ready to go. We'll reveal our picks. AJ already knows who I'm leaning towards. A lot of people know what I'm leaning towards, but I'm not giving it as an official pick yet because one, I want you to watch this show on Saturday, and two, strange things happen where horses get injured, horses get scratched. I just don't want to jinx myself. So, but that is it for now. And I do appreciate each and every one of you for watching live or on delay. And we will do it live Saturday morning here. And we will return on Monday with the Joe Quill show as we get back to a normal week of three races. So or three races. Give me one of those. That's what happens when you do 6 shows in 4 days, and 2 of them being double duty days. So I said duty, but anyway. So that's it for now. Do appreciate each and every one of you, and let's do it live. Let's do it live. On Saturday morning at 10 a.m. And if you can't make it Saturday morning, join me at Monday night at 9 o'clock. And we will get everything underway. So hope everybody has a great night. Go Sixers. Go Flyers. Go Phillies. And by the way, Philly sports teams are now 4-0 since they are 4-1 since they fired Rob Thompson, for what it's worth. So that's it for now. Hope everybody has a great night. I'll see you Saturday for the Derby show, and I'll see you guys in the winner's circle. Have a great day. Have a great night.